Yo, what is going on, you guys? So today I'm bringing guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, we are going to be breaking down the biggest mistake investors are making right now that is costing them thousands, if not tens of thousands, depending on how much they are investing. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into the video. All right, guys, so here we have pulled up a chart of the market trends on alt, and I'm going to be breaking down some sort of investment strategies that I see a lot of people making that is simply not working, and I'm going to be showing you guys how you guys can use these trends to make a lot of money instead of losing yourself a lot of money. So as you guys can see right here by the alt indexes, you have basketball, baseball, football, soccer, hockey, and Pokemon, and if you guys notice a trend, as soon as the season starts for a sport, you start to see the prices go down quite a lot. Of course, you're going to have those players that, play better than expected and, maybe were injured the past year and they start to come back. But for the vast majority of cards, you start to see their prices really dip down during the start of the season. I see a lot of people who I talk to in the sports card scene and in the sports card market always say, oh, this is out of season. This card is out of season. It's going to bounce right back up during season. In season is where the peak is. In season is where the prices are the strongest. And that simply is not the case. If you look across basketball, baseball, and football, you can start to see that prices bottom out roughly towards the middle to the end of the season. And throughout the whole off season is when you start to see prices go up the most. So if we look at football, for example, and its market trend, you can see that football in general has really fallen off a cliff during the start of the season. Of course, right before the season, you have all the hype. People are ready to see their new players play, and then the hype slowly dies down when the season starts. So as you can see right here, football is down 11% over the last 90 days, and is finally starting to see a bottom point, and it's starting to trick back up a little bit because the massive sell-off has already happened. Right now, we are currently in the midst of the basketball massive sell-off happening. We're seeing in the last 90 days, basketball is down around 6%. And of course, hockey, when hockey starts, it has the same exact trend. So we're starting to see that across all sports. Of course, baseball, we just finished the season. So during the end of the season sometimes is usually the lowest point that a sport gets overall. You start to see some players bounce back up towards the end of the year. But in general, now is probably going to be the lowest time we see baseball. And we're already starting to see baseball level out and start to trick back up a little bit. And if a lot of people just understood these simple trends and understand not to follow the hype, I know a lot of people are always looking for that opportunity and they sort of get in and FOMO in once a player has already played well. So if you look at, for example, like the top rising charts, LaMelo Ball, for example, in the basketball card market, everyone right now is buying LaMelo Ball. And chasing the hype, in my opinion, has never really worked out to be the best investment strategy. The best investment strategy is to buy these players before the hype, or to, during the hype. This is the time to sell off. This is the time where investors were looking for a player to play well, and that is the opportunity to sell off. Now, a lot of people kind of play it the opposite. When a player's playing bad, they're going to sell off. A lot of people right now are selling off obviously Wemby, he's kind of an exception because his pop count continues to increase at a rapid level. But if we look at guys like Zion, if you look at guys like, whoever it is, Caitlin Clark, a lot of people are selling off the players that are going down. And that is simply, when I look at the top following, that's where I look for opportunities of, do I think this player can bounce back? Do I think I can see opportunity? Because you always kind of have to stay a step ahead of the market. Otherwise, you can get dumped on. As they call it in investing terms, which is pretty much like, you bought in the hype and then the hype comes down and you get dumped on, and those people who sell and take their profits are selling to you, and then you get caught holding. So that's kind of happening for a lot of people, where if you buy into the hype, you get risked getting dumped on, where the people who got in early and played it properly, those people were selling off and taking their profits. They're leaving that onto you. And of course, a player can continue to play well, but I think a lot of people in this sports card market have to really separate the two of a player playing well and a player's price is doing well. Because if we look at guys like, on the basketball chart, Wemby's having a great year. He's still showing the same potential as he was showing during the offseason. But playing well does not equate to prices going up. In fact, playing well can equate to prices going down a lot, as we see in Wembanyama's case, because of simply pop count and hype, and too many people were holding for the hype, and then the season starting becomes the sell-off moment, where it's like, now is the time to sell off. And I think the smart investors are playing these cycles really, really well. The smart investors are looking at the sports that aren't performing as well and buying in when they aren't performing well and selling when the cycle is at its high. So the sports card market is always going to go in cycles, and you always want to catch the low, sell the highs, catch the low, sell the highs. And I think, frankly, a lot of it comes down to fear, and a lot of people get scared when prices are high or when prices are low, and a lot of people get too confident when prices are high. So if we look at guys like, if we look at the football market, for example, you see Lamar Jackson having an MVP caliber year. You see Jaden Daniels having a breakout season. And a lot of people are buying into the hype of these players. I'm not saying it's a horrible time to invest in them. I'm saying you have a lot more risk when you're buying into a player after he's already skyrocketed in price, because now it's at a higher price point. So there's more risk when you have a higher price point because you have more money to potentially lose. And so, of course, Jaden Daniels, he has a very, very bright future, but then you look at it and he doesn't have, most of his cards right now that people are buying into are not even pro uni. So there's just a lot of, hype that kind of gets thrown in. And I think we saw that with Stroud. As great of a quarterback as CJ Stroud is, his market was based solely off of hype and expectation. And when his expectation was up here to start the season, you can't say he's having a horrible season, but his prices are down over 30% over the last 90 days. And it's simply because they were priced to some incredible expectation. If you're a football fan, you still consider CJ Stroud one of the better quarterbacks in the league, super great potential. But in the sports card market, people are looking to see that right away, and people are pricing in these players as if they are going to continue to improve year after year. And you can see, for example, like a CJ Stroud Purple Pulsar, this card was $1,000 in April, when he was playing well, right? That was actually after the season. So after the season last year, his Purple Pulsar on a PSA 10, this was an $1,100 card, and it's currently kept going down, and it's currently under $700. So you just see even these quote unquote low population cards that a lot of people will consider safe for a guy like CJ Stroud or Wembanyama, they're just not as safe as people think. And I think people are not playing the cycles as well as they should. And if you're buying during the season and selling during the beginning of the offseason, I would flip that around personally. I think the time to buy is when players bottom out between November and, February to March-ish. That is always the time to buy. And the time to sell is always, I like to time it around the National. Right before the season starts, there's all that peak hype. Everyone's speculating on their quarterbacks. So you don't have to play the risk game and be right on a player playing well to make your money. You can make money without your player even playing. You can make your money solely based off the hype cycle. And I think the people who do that make the most money in the sports card scene. Of course, you have guys that flip the hype, buy the hot player and flip it right away. And there is money to be made in doing that. But if you're buying the hype and holding, that is where I see most of the money being lost. And I think that is personally one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, is just following the herd. You always want to be a step ahead of the herd. If you think everyone is going to be buying football in July, I would recommend buying football in June, in May, in March, in April, right? You want to get in before everyone wants that card. You want to get into a player before everyone wants that player, and that is where the real money to be made is. The money to be made is usually not where everyone is looking. It's usually being a step ahead and predicting where everyone will be looking. And if you're able to get that right, you can see great gains. As a lot of people see during the offseason, for example, Jordan Love last year, he had an amazing playoffs, and a lot of people thought that was the selling opportunity. But if you guys know about the offseason cycles, there's always going to be upside in holding throughout the offseason, because the player can't, hypothetically they could get injured during the offseason, but the chances of that is super low. Usually what happens is there are trades that get made, there's contracts that get signed, and there's overall hype that builds up before the season, which is a lot better than the contrary, which would be, a player could get injured any day of the week. the hype has to sustain itself, and there's kind of like that burden of you have to continue to play well to see your prices stay steady, instead of throughout the offseason, you don't have to have a player play well because they're not playing. Hype gradually builds up. So I definitely hope you guys took something from this video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.